Melissa Casias, a 53-year-old employee at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, was found dead in a national forest in New Mexico. Her remains were positively identified, and a handgun was discovered nearby, pointing investigators toward suicide. But there's a problem. Her daughter insists Melissa didn't own a gun. Of course, some might argue she could have obtained one without her family knowing. But that's only the beginning of the mystery. Melissa's family also says her body was found in an area that had already been searched. If that's true, it raises serious questions about the timeline. Here's what happened. On June 26, 2025, Melissa drove herself and her husband to work at a government-run nuclear research facility in New Mexico. Later that morning, she claimed she had to return because her husband had forgotten his work badge, forcing her to work from home instead, something her family says was highly unusual. That same morning, Melissa dropped off lunch for her teenage daughter at work. But when her daughter returned home a few hours later, Melissa's car was there, but Melissa was gone. Inside the house, investigators found her keys, purse, wallet, and both of her cell phones, left behind. And then came the most disturbing detail. Both phones had been factory reset. A strange move for someone who had simply walked away. At 2:18 p.m., surveillance footage captured Melissa walking alone on a highway near her home. That was the last confirmed sighting of her. But the mystery deepens. Just 1 month earlier, another man who had also worked at the same lab vanished under mysterious circumstances. Coincidence? Or could these disappearances be connected? And if they are, does this case go far beyond the individuals involved and into the secrets of what they may have been working on?
Good to have you both. Morgan, I start with you. When Casias specifically, with what they're working with right now, do you think there is cause for suspicion?
You know, Chris, in all the years that I've worked death investigations, you don't want to put too early of a read on stuff because we don't know right now what the scene looks like, right? There's only 5 manners of death, natural, suicide, homicide, accidental, undetermined. They haven't made a determination yet. We know the body was found. We know a weapon was found. But I will say all of those things are consistent with a self-inflicted wound. All those things are consistent with her behavior, walking to where she got. I know you said wiping the phones, but look, that's not inconsistent with somebody wanting to make a clean break and get away from stuff, and suicide may have been the only answer. We don't know that yet. So yeah, it's one of those things. I know everybody wants answers right now, but the biggest danger is to go from evidence, bypass interpretation, and go right to narrative. We're not at the stage yet where the evidence can be properly interpreted because we haven't finished looking at the scene, whether it's a crime scene or just the scene of a suicide. We don't know that yet, so we're going to have to wait till law enforcement. I know everybody wants answers, Chris, but I'll tell you, 40 years of doing this, the answers don't come easy, but you got to get it right. If you want it bad, you get it bad. Let's not do this wrong. Let's take our time, get this right.
That's the perfect perspective on it. One quick bump before I go to Lauren. How many suicides do you know where they have their phones that they reset their phones before they kill themselves?
I
not
don't
an
know
exact number. I'm saying,
Yeah.
Is it something that's familiar to you? Because it's not to me. And I talked to a couple of different people who work within the mental health field and deal, unfortunately, with a lot of people taking their own lives. It is not something that jumps out to them as something they're used to.
Yeah, what I would say, Chris, is that we don't know that her early intention was suicide. She may have just decided to walk away. That's why she's got the gear and everything with her. And it may have got to a point, and this is just a hypothesis, where she decided, no, I'm going to kill myself. So there have been people, there have been people walked away from their life. They drop everything. There's a girl that was walked away, I think in New Mexico when she was 17 years old, found 30 years later. She just completely cut ties, lived with an extended relative. So we're trying to rationalize an irrational action. We're trying to say, well, it should have looked like this. It doesn't. Is it inconsistent? No, but it's certainly not consistent with a conspiracy theory of 11 people that everybody at the same time. 5 of these folks walked away. These are no body cases right now, Chris.
Gotcha. Lauren, you've done some good digging and some good asking on these stories, and we've been following along. So thank you for joining us tonight. What do you think deserves scrutiny?
Well, I think what's extremely problematic, as you said, is that the family put out a statement saying, we searched this area before. This family has been searching for their loved one, Melissa Casias, for a year. And she was found roughly 6 miles from the home. And not only that, the highway she was last seen on, 518, I mean, you can get to where she was from that highway. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that her husband, I saw a statement that he made on Facebook months ago, and I'll read part of it to you. He said, quote, "In 2009, 2010, we faced the hardest times in our lives, but with you by my side, we made it through together. What we face this time is all fixable. I believe you have help, but for how long?" That part sticks with me because there were also unconfirmed reports that Melissa may have gotten into a vehicle with an unknown person as well. And look, yes, she works at Los Alamos and she works literally in a classified laboratory. So I guess that could be concerning, but here's the thing. We don't know what type of clearances she had. We don't know what she had access to as an administrator. And, you know, until we know exactly what she was working on, which room she was in, etc., it's really tough, I believe, to tie all of these together. However, New Mexico, I mean, can we agree that something is going on? And I did do some research, so, you know, Morgan, don't get mad at me. I know that a lot of people seem to go missing in New Mexico. I realize that. The stats are high. I don't exactly know why, but they are. So, you know, there's that as well.
What does New Mexico have to do with it, Morgan, in terms of our understanding?
Well, a couple things. Let's be clear about Melissa. If anything, DOE, Department of Energy, has separate clearances. They have Q clearances, they have L clearances. She was an administrative assistant. I was just on her LinkedIn page. It's still up. She was an administrative assistant. I've worked in classified facilities. At the most, she would have had what's called an L clearance, similar to a secret or maybe a confidential. She had zero access to Q clearance information, restricted data, formerly restricted data, anything dealing with nukes. So she was an administrator. You have to have a clearance to work in these things, but you don't get the clearance that gets you access to information. I did the stats I pulled the information on how many people were expected to go missing. The national rate is 6.5 per 100,000. So if you look at all of the entities in New Mexico, from Kirtland Air Force Base to Sandia to Los Alamos, over 28 months, you would have expected 10 people to go missing. Only 5 went missing. So I'm not saying, I want people to understand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that's insignificant. I'm saying from a statistical standpoint, it's insignificant in terms of the total number. They had 319 go missing in all of New Mexico during that same 28 months.
You know what part of this is, Lauren, also? And it's not your fault. Morgan's not wrong to be suspicious. I'm not wrong to do the segment. If the government were more transparent about what's going on with the program surrounding the UAP phenomenon and what they do, people wouldn't be looking to connect the dots, because, you know, they wouldn't be starved of perspective on what they need to know and what they don't know. You know, this is what happens. It's the same thing with Epstein. You get a lot of conspiracy theories when people know that you won't show what you have. And I think that's part of this also. Do you? Well,
I mean, listen, I am navigating through what I feel is clickbait, what I feel is not true. And look, I don't know if certain FBI agents are going on television and speaking to the media and saying, no, I've seen administrative personnel be targeted, you know, for classified intelligence. I mean, it doesn't seem logical, but they're saying it. And look, I've also said that I do think that part of the, you know, I am very interested in the UFO files. I am very happy that the White House and the president are taking steps to show the public more than we've seen before. But also, not to sound cliche, I've also said it's a distraction. And I know that the American people, we can handle more things at once. We can handle multiple news stories, multiple, you know, it's just, it's troublesome at this point. And I go back to speaking to NASA JPL scientist Monica Reza. She's been missing since June of 2025. I spoke to her family. The White House and the FBI are supposed to be looking into these cases, and I'm sure they are, but Monica's family member told me that they haven't been contacted by anyone at the White House or the FBI.
I don't know. I've been working, I'm sure Morgan has also. I've been working with the FBI or against them, depending on how you look at it, for almost 30 years. Right now, things are different there. And I don't know that they're looking at these cases. I don't know. They have a very, very limited aperture of case priority right now because it's so politically managed. I'm going to talk to you about that more when we meet later this week on the Crime Time podcast, Lauren, which I'm looking forward to having you on. Thank you very much. And Morgan Wright, it's always great to have you. Thank you for your perspective.
You bet, Chris.
Thank you for being the cool saucer under the hot cup of speculation. I know that's what they said about the Senate versus the House, but it works here too. Thank you, Lauren. We'll talk again on Cuomo Crime Time later this week, and we'll get into who's looking and who isn't looking. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.